Hi everybody. Welcome to Millennial Think Tank. And tonight we're going to talk about the remote workforce and the growing use of telecommuting and the good, bad, and the ugly of that. So before we start, I'm going to frame the discussion with a few facts. And I got this data from a company called Global Workplace Analytics, and they're out in San Diego. They're a consulting company that does research, a lot of it to do with the future of work, and a lot of it having to do with telecommuting. So just under 3%, whoever is making all that noise, mute please. Just under 3% of the U.S. workforce is telecommuting full-time now, not including the self-employed, so people who work for a government or corporation. But that number grew by 80% since 2005. Listen to this number. For federal employees since 2005, they've grown, the telecommuting by federal employees, government employees, has grown by 421%. And for profits, it's growing by 88% since 2005. During the recession, this is interesting, telecommuting grew by 16% while the workforce was shrinking. And approximately 25 million people part-time telecommute. You know, they might be, like Kelsey, I think you do that, in the office most days, but not every day. All right, so I'm going to have you guys introduce yourself. I'm going to start with you, Albert. You know, who you are, where you fall in the millennial spectrum, and what you do, but also how often. I don't think you telecommute now or remotely work, but how long you did do it. So, and if for any of you, tell us. Okay, go ahead, Albert. You're muted, I think.
Here we go. There we go. Yeah.
Yep.
Hi, my name is. I am a millennial, about 27 years old, working in high-tech product marketing here in Orange County in Southern California. And I would say, I guess, my telecommuting history, has been interesting. So I've had contracts where I've worked entirely from home. I've worked at tech companies where Friday was designated work from home day. And actually, this company allows employees to do that too. I just choose not to. And then I've also had situations where I telecommute on an ad hoc basis. So if there's a project that is better completed from home because I'm recording something and don't need so much noise around me, then I do that. So there's that.
Okay, great. Thanks. Kelsey?
Hi, I'm Kelsey. I'm a 26-year-old millennial, and I work at Palo Alto University as a project manager. I'm on an independent contract with them, and I work between 1 and 2 days a week for Palo Alto University at home. And we are currently going through a huge change with the way that our company structure is working, and we can touch more on that later, but basically half of our staff will be working from home, either part-time or full-time in the future.
Okay. Yeah, I'll definitely want to hear about that. Okay, Samantha?
Waiting for, okay, perfect, it's working. Hi, my name is Samantha. I'm a younger millennial. I currently do a 3-day job at the University of Alberta working in public interest research. I'm transitioning to working fully at home, which is kind of what I'm most excited about. And I also am doing my master's in an online program. So.
Okay, great. Okay, Tiffany?
Hi. Tiffany Daniels, an older millennial. I work in communications and community relations for a quasi-governmental organization. And I currently telecommute, I guess you'd say, part-time. Our office allows for our staff to work from home at least 1 day a week. And then we have every other Friday off.
Okay, great. And TJ, who's new to the Millennial Think Tank, introduce yourself and all that. Hi.
Hi everyone, I'm TJ. I live in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and I work in Hershey, Pennsylvania as a branch manager for a local credit union. I'm a 24-year-old millennial, and I am not able to telecommute, obviously. I run a branch, so.
Okay. All right, so Albert, we'll get to all the good parts of telecommuting. I mean, one thing that I kept reading about was how it really impacts the bottom line because it's much less expensive for companies to not provide you with a workspace. And also it cuts down on commuting cost for the employee, and commuting time. But Albert worked remotely a considerable amount of time, and I know that he doesn't like it. So I'd love to start there with why you prefer to be in an office with humans.
Yeah, so there's the convenience of being able to walk over to your boss or a coworker to ask a question. And so I would say a lot of how I feel about telecommuting now was really put into my mind between November of 2013 and February of 2014. I worked for a marketing ad agency remotely, and my boss, I think, was in Dallas, and the person I was working with directly was out in like Pittsburgh. And I don't think the time zone thing ever presented an issue, but I think as far as employee development was concerned, um, I felt like there really wasn't much of that. So even though for the first I think, 3.5 months they really liked what I was doing for them, about I would say that last half month they weren't very communicative, and it didn't really even happen with my recruiter either. And when the contract ultimately terminated, I got about a 5-second thank you, and that was just about it, and nothing ever again, which was really, really weird to me. And so that's why, while I like the idea of being able to telecommute, I mean, it's great to be able to work on weekends and do a little bit of extra. The light just went out in the front here. I prefer to work on site if I can, so that I can talk to an actual person and really get to know who I'm working with and get answers to questions right on the spot.
But tell me this, the thing where they basically said goodbye after so long, that had something to do with the contract that you were under instead of being a full-time employee too, right?
Sure, but I think I would have enjoyed, I think, more feedback as far as how I was doing as an employee, or, whether they like extend that contract or convert me to a full-time employee. That would have really helped in the whole entire course of communication, except that because, I wasn't there, and my FaceTime in front of everyone that I was working with was pretty much 2 or 3 days over a week in Dallas. Other than that, I didn't really get to talk to them or get to know them, and so I would say that being able to learn what I could have learned and all that stuff, and becoming a better employee just didn't end up happening. And so
All right, so I want to hear from somebody. Have any of you worked remotely the majority of the time and had mentoring and professional development? Okay, Samantha, go.
So back in my youth, as I'm going to call it, I did a lot of marketing and social media uh, community management for the Canadian Undergraduate Technology Conference, and we were across the country. So we have everyone from Halifax all the way to Vancouver. For those who are American, that's like New York to Seattle. And so, like, basically, we would meet on a very regular basis, and we were partnered with people in industry to help us learn our jobs, which was really great. So even though my mentor was out in Vancouver and I was closer to Toronto, we would meet on a very regular basis and would teach me the ropes, which I thought was fantastic. But I think you have to be in an environment that cultivates that. I feel like it was part of our mandate that we were going to be all over the country, and it cultivated a leadership team to make sure no one fell through the cracks.
Okay. Does anybody else have any examples like that? Um, you know, at our company, we are all telecommuting because we work online, and my partners are in Toronto, and we have someone in Oregon and someone in Albuquerque. And I'm thinking, Albert, about your statement about not getting to know people. But I guess if you're using teleconferencing, if you're using Google Hangouts or Skype a lot, I do get to know, I know my partners very well. I know them as people. I guess it's different than water cooler conversation. I mean, does anyone else that remotely works feel like you're missing that personal interaction? Nope. Okay. So Kelsey, tell me about you work how many days a week at home? Or
I
you
work
can work how many days?
Well, I can work from home as many days of the week as I would like, but I kind of am with Albert because I feel like if I'm, like today I work from home, which is great, but there was something that came up today where my boss went into, the other person's office, and they had a conversation about some data that they were trying to pull. And, I wasn't a part of that conversation, and had I been in the office, I think I would have been. Um, just because I think there's a higher, barrier to entry when, even though we're super connected, I can be on Google Hangouts, I'm on Zoom, video conferencing. It really works great. They have a lot of IT support to like make sure it's easy to connect with people. It's just that, oh, I'll just tell Kelsey when she gets into the office tomorrow sort of, mentality. And so I do miss out on a little bit. But I think it also forces you to have better written communication because since I've been working from home, I think my written communication has really increased in its quality and its clarity because it forces you to really articulate what you're working on and what you've been doing because you can't just walk over to somebody's office and say it.
So, okay, before any of you did any remote working, was there any training involved? Or, I mean, I hadn't really thought about that, Kelsey, but if someone's never done it before, I think you're right. The necessity for really clear written communication is essential. And I've never heard of it. I mean, I was never trained, obviously, but like, okay, Tiffany, with you, were there any rules about what has to happen when you work from home? Because you said once a week you get to, right?
Right. We have, a policy because you basically have to prove that you have all of the technology and internet connection and phone that you need because our company's not paying for that. That's part of the deal is that it's a perk. And so if you would like to work from home, you have the ability to do so, but you have to provide your own stuff. And so there's fun forms and stuff we've got to fill out. But when I joined the company 3 years ago, they'd been doing it for, I believe, 7 or 8 years. So it was less of a formal training and more so of just understanding how other people manage working from home. And we have a dedicated schedule. So I work from home every Thursday. And so my team, my colleagues, the contractors that I work with know that. And so we will schedule around the Thursday. If I need to come in like I did today, I come in for a meeting. But they also kind of know that on Wednesday, I may be working later because there's things I need to get out so that Thursday I can focus on grant writing. Because some of those projects I wait and kind of, I don't know, pocket them until I know that I'm going to be home and can focus. But no, there wasn't any formal training.
So you think that there's more focus when you're at home?
It depends on the activity. If it's like for grant writing for me, I sadly I will look for distractions at work. I will find other projects that I can do because I can't force myself to focus at home. I don't have anything else work-wise that I needed to be doing. And so if that's the case, if I'm writing, sure, I have peace and quiet, I have control. If I'm needing to do reports or interact, obviously, it's much easier to do that in the office because I can get up and walk to someone's desk, and it's less of having to schedule a call or guaranteeing that someone's going to be at their computer because we have a pretty set schedule, so we know when someone will more than likely be at their desk.
So what about distractions at home? I mean, when I'm at home, and it took me a long time to go back to working at home. When I first moved down to Florida, I rented an office for 3 years because I felt like I needed this place to go to. And I get distractions like the laundry, or I'll just do the dishes, or I'll do this, I'll do that, and I have to force myself not to. That doesn't happen?
Oh, yeah, of course it does. But working from home, one other perk for me, and I don't know if it works for every other people, is I don't necessarily function best in the 9 to 5 hours. My creativity, maybe it's because of college and cramming at the last minute, but I am far more productive in certain activities like writing late at night. And so when I'm working from home, I can kind of readjust my schedule. I have to be on email, and I have to be mindful that other people may be following that 9 to 5, but I feel less guilty if I did my laundry at 3 because I'm working at 1 a.m. And maybe that's the right thing or maybe it's the wrong thing, but it also allows me to plan for the types of things and when I know that I'm going to be most focused on particular projects.
Okay. So TJ, you said true story. Do you mean that you feel more focused at home?
No, the hours of the day. Back when I did IT work, I could work late into the night and be very focused on the job and task that I was doing. Whereas if I go into the office that morning, I could be distracted or go down to the break room and get coffee with the coworkers. But if I'm sending patch updates to the entire organization, it's a lot easier to do that at 9 o'clock at night. A, because no one else is using their computers and they're not going to get kicked off. And B, I can just put all my attention straight into doing that project.
Okay, so who did you work for when you did that?
I worked for the credit union as well. I was in their IT department for 2 years, and
And they let you work from home.
I was able to work from home in the evenings or on weekends. From 9 to 5, I did have to go into the office during my hours. But if I had to work a weekend or if there was an emergency, all of our IT personnel are on call pretty much 24/7. So we're all given VPN access and all that. Contrary to Tiffany, everything for us was paid for. Our internet, our cell phones, our computers, everything was provided because of that 24/7 necessity.
So you gave that up to become a branch manager?
Yeah, I'm a weirdo. Yeah.
Not necessarily. It might be a promotion, but I'm just thinking of so you're trapped to banking hours now, right? Like you,
Um,
you have no choice.
For the most part, I mean, obviously my customers, my members, they come in when our lobby is open, but I do a lot more business development. So I honestly do work from anywhere from 7 in the morning till 9 o'clock at night. Last night I got out of an event at 9:30 after work hours. So I'm doing a lot more business development. I'm on the road a lot. What I find I'm more on is my cell phone and my email because people can't reach me at my desk anymore because I'm out on the road. So they're sending me a text.
Is it still paid for?
It is not anymore, actually, no. So all that is just an app on my phone that I can connect to my company email, and therefore I can have access to that.
Okay, I want to ask everybody who that works remotely okay, and Albert includes you because you're allowed to. Who has their internet and anything else paid for? I mean, you said you used the words, Tiffany, that it's a perk to work remotely, right? So you don't get anything. You don't get any expense money or anything, right?
No, and for our type of organization, it really is a perk because we're not sharing desks. They're not necessarily saving a lot of money by me working at home 1 day a week because no one's sharing my cubicle. All of the investment in IT that they've made into me as the general employee is still being there. I have VPN access, so I can access my desktop from home and get on the server, but it's very few people in our organization have those things paid for.
Is anyone checking that you're on? So my boyfriend works remotely because he's in the claims division of an insurance company. So they're out on the road running around double checking whether the adjusters are doing the right thing. But they know when he's logged in, and he has to work 9 to 5 because that's the hours that the insurance company is doing business. So they know when he's not working, if he's not logged in. Do you have that at all, Tiffany? Do they check to see if you're logged in?
I'm friends with our IT lady, so I know they can check, but we're not required to be logged into the server on your telecommute day. So for instance, if I don't need to access files on our server because I'm writing, then there's no reason for me to log in. And so there's no monitoring of whether I am just working on my regular computer or accessing the server at work. The only monitor is more unofficial and is from your managers. Are you responsive on your telecommute days? If they send you an email at 9 a.m., do they not get a response till 4 p.m.? That's probably an issue. If they give you a call on your phone, then that's probably an issue. But yeah, there's nothing formal.
Okay, so Albert, if you're working from home 1 day a week, right?
Yeah.
You can, right? You don't.
Oh yeah.
What?
Yeah, absolutely, I can. I can log into my company's VPN, and I can even answer emails remotely if I wanted to as well. So if I was out and about and wanted to do that, I can do that too.
But do you get paid? You get no expense money for it, right?
Not get expense for it, no, not at all.
And what about you, Kelsey? And Samantha and Kelsey work in sort of the same world, in academia. Kelsey, do you get expense money for that?
I can't because I'm 1099, but what I do is I take it out as I have to do a business deduction for it. But if I was a W-2 contract, I could. And with the way that they're moving into this change with our university in August, they're going to be paying for people. I mean, my laptop is paid for. But as far as like internet and cell phone, they're going to be paying for the portion of people's internet and then their mobile phone as well. For the people that volunteer to work from home, either full time or part time, and then the trade off is that they have to share an office with.
Do you take advantage of it from a tax perspective, like a certain percent of your house since you're working from home?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I have.
Do all of you do that? I don't know what happened. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Sorry.
Okay. Because you can take a percentage of your home off, or all your expenses from home off your taxes in the U.S. anyway, if you work from home at all. So Samantha, tell me about you get no expense. Oh wait, this is a new thing where you're going to be working remotely, right?
Yeah. So like this new endeavor, which we'll see what happens in May, and I'll make official announcements then. It'll probably not be able to take that many expenses off. Though in the past I have had the luxury of having parts of my phone and internet plan covered. I said in the chat when I did work for CUTC, I had 6 gigabytes that was given to me, and then my plan just kept them on afterwards, and I didn't have to pay it additional, which was just fantastic. That I was like, oh look, I'm no longer working with this organization. I still get 6 gigs of data that I take all over the place. But that perk was a necessity. Like, it wasn't a perk, it was a necessity, because I literally was on the road constantly, going to different university campuses, talking about the organization and whatever. So I think you almost, especially if you're a technology conference, like if you don't give your employees the actual things that they need technology wise, then like how dare you call yourself a technology conference?
Sure. I do see, though, this, there are 2 ways of doing it. I mean, this idea when Tiffany said it's a perk, and I get what you're saying, Tiffany, it's a perk because they're already providing you an office space. It's not like with us where we don't have to provide any office space, so we save money. But it's also a benefit for the company, especially when a bunch of you seem to agree that you can be more focused at home and work on specific things, right?
Right.
And I
would just say it's one of those things that also as a nonprofit organization, we can't always compete salary-wise with the same level of work that you'd be doing in the private sector. And so there are things like this. They can't justify with federal contracting that we're going to ask DOL to pay for my laptop when I have a PC at the office. Because that's where our funding comes from. And so, like, we have a schedule that if you work 9-hour days and you have every other Friday off because you're meeting the 40-hour requirement, but they're not going to make concessions for any additional transportation changes because you don't have a traditional work week any longer, because you don't have to take those things and you won't be knocked for not working at home and for not flexing on Fridays.
And none of you have children, right? I mean, Kelsey has those cats that she treats like children. But because it'll be really interesting. I mean, flexibility for women with children is huge, I mean, it's okay, Samantha. Let me come back to you. What are you most excited about working at home?
Well, first of all, I have a lot of people in my life who do work remotely, and the thing that I find easier within a workforce is my current job. I deal with a lot of student appointments, and people just walk in and don't understand that I have other things that I need to do, and it's like, drop everything and pay attention to me. I'm a first year. And so I'm kind of looking forward to this. I'm just going to close the door, do everything I need to do, and like then once I'm done, I'll open up the door and move on with my life, which is really nice because I can't do that in my current work.
Why can't you? Because there's no lock on your door? No, why can't
Okay,
you?
so like we're in an open, like we're like in a Google-esque office space where we have like our library and resources, our chairs where like students do homework and whatever, and then our desks. And there is no space, and like literally everyone comes in and is always wanting to talk and always wanting to like have like their problem is the biggest problem in the world, and I just need to finish something that's more important to the board or something that has to do with our nonprofit.
Yeah, and I can see. Okay, so TJ, when you're at work, are you in an open office plan or no?
I do have an office with a door that I can close.
What's your title? Are you branch manager?
Yes.
But you're doing business development. You're not there running it. That's your primary job is to develop business.
Correct. Yeah, I'm supposed to be out of the office probably about 80% of the time, and actually in the office 20%. My assistant manager runs the day-to-day operations mainly.
So, but you're out. You're supposed to be outside, out meeting and greeting people and shaking hands. You're not supposed to be working, sending emails, doing that kind of business development.
Correct.
You have to be the youngest branch manager ever, Samantha says. It's a credit union, though. They're usually progressive and different. Okay, wait. Okay, tell me about that, Kelsey. You were going to say something a while back, and I never came back to you. And it was when I was talking to Tiffany, and I don't remember what it was. It was about. I think it was about. It wasn't about flexibility. So if you remember what it was, tell me.
Well,
Do
I
you?
think I think the thing along the lines of, if it's a perk or not, I think it also has to do, like with the working at home, I think it also has to do with the environment because, if people have it, like shorter commute, there's a lower barrier for them to get into the office. I think maybe it is considered more of a perk to be able to work at home, but for the like areas like LA where Albert is in the Bay Area, it just for people to commute an hour and a half or an hour each way, I think companies they end up like losing out on productivity because their people are commuting more and then maybe leaving earlier or something. And that's one
But I
thing.
don't know if they're aware. I wonder if they're aware of that because I hear you. Like I get up and I work really long days because I get up, take my kid to school, and then I'm at my desk. And I can be there till 8 o'clock at night when I get to see your lovely faces. And there's no commute time. But Albert, who I really get why Albert likes being in an office. So first of all, what's your office space like? Is it an open plan cubicle type thing, or do you have your own desk? I mean, your own office where you can shut the door?
So I work in a cubicle. I've always worked in a cubicle, and I actually prefer cubicles. And the lower the wall, the better, actually. Because yeah, I can see outside the window if it's a nice sunny day, and if I can just stand up at my desk and yell across the room, that works a whole lot better than having to walk across an entire cubicle maze and figure it out. I know it's kind of this weird hybrid of the new way to work and like not wanting to like work from home. But yeah, I mean that's usually what I like. Right now I work in one of these like super traditional cubicles that you see from like the comic Dilbert, where the walls are kind of high and you kind of can't see where everyone works, and you can
But you
kind
can
of see where
hear
people work only
everybody.
because they have.
But you can hear
You can
everyone,
definitely
right?
hear everyone. Yeah, I sit right behind a guy who is a sales guy, so he's on the phone all day long, and I get to hear him talk to clients all day long. Yeah.
Yeah. So okay. So when you go home, do you work more when you're home, even though you're not telecommuting because it's after hours?
That only depends on if I have anything else that I need to do that's needs to get done.
All
I'll
right. So how
definitely
long
log
is
in
your
from home.
commute? How long is your commute? Because he's in Orange County, which can be a nightmare. How long's your commute?
Oh, my commute is like 6 miles. If
Okay.
and and for most of it, I'm actually going. I'm actually not really in traffic either. So there's the south and the north 405 in the morning, or south 405 in the morning, which is bad, and I'm
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
only on that for like a month. 405 when I come home, which isn't bad at all either because I'm not in traffic for that long. So I can get from my office to my home in about 15 minutes.
Okay. So were
And
you? Sorry. Go ahead.
yeah, yeah, go ahead.
I was going to ask you, were you at HP? So Albert was at HP. You guys know, but Albert was at HP as a contract worker for quite a while, right? A couple years?
No, just for 10 months.
Okay. So So when were you there when Marissa Meyer, I never seen her name, decided to pull back all of the remote working?
I've never. Marissa Meyer is Yahoo's CEO,
Oh, sorry,
but
that's where she did it. Wasn't she at HP? Sorry. All right, so I just
no.
want to ask a question about that. That when she did that, people, there was a huge sort of backlash because she was supposed to be this advanced, modern tech type of person, and then she basically said, "I want everyone in the office." Did you guys pay attention to that at
Well,
all and think,
she was, let's see, Google employee number 20, I believe. And then, yeah, now she's Yahoo's CEO. And I think she had a very good reason to do it because you had a lot of employees who were working solely from home who were taking advantage of that opportunity by taking the liberty to start their own companies and not getting work done on Yahoo company time. So I think that's what angered a lot of people. The case with HP actually, so we have Meg Whitman, who is the former
that's it, Meg
CEO,
Whitman,
or
yes.
they have Meg Whitman, who is the former CEO of eBay and also ran for California governor once as their CEO. And so her deal was she was walking upstairs from the floor below us one day to grab her lunchtime salad, and she walked by a bunch of empty cubes. And these are all people that were working remotely, and so this ended up, I think, compelling her to throw a fit over the fact that everyone was working from home. And so in the last reorganization, where I think they laid off like 55,000 employees in total, part of that business decision was also to bring everyone back to within, like, I think, a 1 hour drive of an HP campus. So if you lived within an hour of Palo Alto, Houston, I think Fort Collins, Colorado, and I think Boston, Massachusetts, you could keep your job, but if you weren't in any of those regions, you either were let go or you were given the opportunity to move, or you would have to become like a remote salesperson where you do a lot of sales calls and stuff like that. So,
Did you think that that hurt HP?
yeah,
Did you think that that hurt HP?
absolutely. I mean, we lost, when I was there, we lost 60% of our marketing staff. There was no budget to bring on new people. The people I was working with were extremely strapped for time and for effort and for just being able to get anything done. And despite the best efforts of leadership, this is a family company that's found by family people, and you'd have people who've been at HP for 30, 40 years, and people treat each other like they're in their own family over there, and so you had people who were leaving left and right, and I mean, I think morale was clearly down, and there were people who the leadership tried their best to really signal the coming of the company, but I think it's really difficult to do that when you have a ton of people leaving. So,
Sure. Okay, so I have
um,
a question. So I have a question for all of you guys, and I'd love you to answer it individually. Well, not you, Albert, because I know you don't like working remotely, but everyone else, if you were offered a job where you had the flexibility to work as much from home as you wanted, but you had an office, would that mean as much to you as, say, $10,000 in salary? Would it be worth what's worth more, money or the ability to work from home? Tiffany, answer.
Right now, for me, it'd be money. I enjoy the ability to work from home, but I am in the office the majority of the time, so losing that one day for $10,000 would be worth it.
Okay,
Now,
but no, but what if you were going to a new job and you could work from home as much as you wanted or earn $10,000 more a year?
well, that's the thing. You're not going to like my answer because the nature of my job is usually a lot of relationship management, and I prefer to do that in person.
No,
So
I'll like your
I'm not.
answer. It's not a wrong or right, and I think you're right. Like there are some jobs where it's just not as possible to work remotely all the time,
Now,
right?
I
And
may not
yours is
always
one of
be in
them.
the office. I may be out in the community meeting with other people in person, but I'm still not technically telecommuting in the sense that I'm at home in my pajamas. I'm just not in the office.
Sure. Okay. So TJ, you answer that question. So you take over the world and you're, promoted and you have the opportunity to do something where you have that choice. You could work from home as much as you want, or you can earn $10,000 more a year, but be in the office every day. Which is worth more?
No, I think I would. I'd take the money too. I couldn't deal with not being like alone 24/7. I think I'm more of a people person. I'd rather be face to face and having that time too when you're not in the zone at work and you can just kind of go out and talk to someone really quickly. Go get a coffee, whatever, and then come back to your desk and kind of refocus. I think that gives you the ability to break. If you're at home, I'm gonna end up doing my dishes, and why would I want to do those? So.
See, and you know what? That's a really good point, though, because I'm an extrovert, totally. And I learned a long time ago that I get my energy from people. And so if I'm at home too much, this week I'm visiting the beautiful city of Reading, Pennsylvania, and I've spent a lot of time just working at my computer, not doing too many hangouts, not doing too many video chats, because those sort of give me the same kind of energy, meeting people. And I was like, wow, I definitely need to go, see some humans. But I think it probably is a lot harder for an extrovert to work remotely if they aren't, like with my job, I might have 10 hangouts a week. It may be with colleagues I work with. It may be pitching a client. It could be, so that to me sort of feels like I'm with people. But that's an interesting point that if you're an extrovert, it might be a lot more difficult. All right, Samantha, so you answer that. $10,000 but then you have to be in the office every day. You can't work remotely.
Okay, so most people know this, that like I am a somewhat anxious, not somewhat, I'm an anxious person. So for me to be at home is like fantastic. I'm like, yes, this is great. I'm gonna do everything. I don't have to deal with anyone. And then that means I can like save like my spoons. So if I want to go out like to a thing that night, then I have like all of my like extrovertedness like saved into me, and then I can like go back home and then be like bubble bath, yes. So again, like this is.
So you would take it over the 10 grand. You would take it over the 10 grand.
The heartbeat, like right there.
Okay. Okay, and Kelsey, what about you?
I think I would have to say work from home, because I love working from home. I'm like Samantha. I'm such a homebody as it is, but at the same time, I know I need to see people. So it's just the flexibility. Like it's that simple flexibility of I don't want to be told where I can and can't work. I think that's like the bottom of it.
And I think that that's what's shifting because so many millennials either work for themselves or work remotely a good chunk of the time. And so I spent my career in sales, and it's interesting because the sales force has always been remote. I supervised 18 sales reps over half the U.S., and they didn't have a supervisor. They were in their cars most of the time, but everybody worked from their home office. Everybody had expenses. I worked from my home office, and then I flew all over the place to see them. So for my entire career since, I don't know, 94, I've had this sort of, now I switched to doing online work where I can't even imagine. I was, thinking, if I went back to real work, to be 9 to 5 would just be so bizarre to me for exactly what you said, someone telling me what to do. Yeah, that's interesting. Okay, so what are the bad parts of working at home then? What are the things that you don't like? Okay, go Samantha.
Internet problems, connectivity, constantly plagues me. And I'm only saying this because, like, Amy, you and I deal with this on a very regular basis, that it's, like, a constant problem. So I find myself often thinking about remote places, like, where am I going to hook up? Like, where are the other places that I know where it's going to be a secure connection? And then often, even if one side of the place that you're talking to or the remote force that you're working with does have the ability to have like strong, secure networks, the other side that you're dealing with, be it the client or someone else, often doesn't. So like it's a smorgasbord of technology problems sometimes.
Yeah, but I mean that can happen at work too, I guess, but you have an IT person like TJ that you can say, hey, get over here and fix this for me, right? You're not helpless on your own. Yeah. But I think as, internet speed hopefully improves in the US, we're so far behind so many other countries. I don't know how we are in relation to Canada, but definitely.
We pay more for the same things. That's where we're at.
But I mean, our speed is much slower if you look at us compared to many other countries, especially in Europe. And I think in the long term that could really hurt us if we move towards a more, more of a remote workforce. Okay, so Tiffany or someone talked about emails. And I saw this post the other day. I didn't read the whole thing, but it said why your late night emails are killing your team, right? Now, I email whenever the heck it comes to me. If I'm working at 10 o'clock at night, I'll send my team an email. Now, they don't need to respond within any certain amount of time. We all work like this. But is there an email etiquette for when you're working remotely?
I think the challenge for me is, and maybe not even my current company, but where I used to work, was less if my colleagues sent emails than if my boss. If your boss is sending you an email at 10 or 6 a.m., there's a sense of pressure to respond. Even though it may not be within the office hours, even though they actually may not care, it's just because they're working, it's you are stressed because you don't ever really let go of work. I go out and work happens. And
well, that's what I was going to ask you is your work email through your phone, and do you feel like you have to respond?
Yeah. Well, and the nature of my job is, I mean, I'm our media contact, so I really do have to at least be mindful of, what kind of communications are coming through, and then if it's something I can ignore and wait till Monday, I will, but if I can't, then I'd rather answer those questions than to leave it open to interpretation for a couple days.
Although, what if you're like at a cocktail party and you're thinking, like you have to say to yourself, maybe I shouldn't send an email right now. Does that happen?
That's when you write very short sentences and you schedule a specific time for Monday so that you're still responsive, but you're not answering any questions that could get you in trouble. I don't know that I've ever had too many drinks at a cocktail party to send a 2-sentence email, but I do know people that have because I've received them. You have to be careful.
Okay. All right. TJ, do you get emails from your supervisor like that at random times, or is it that industry is so 9 to 5 that they wouldn't dare?
I actually don't think we're 9 to 5 at all. From internal emails, I'll get some of those after the work hours. My boss, every now and then, not too often, I'm probably the one that emails the most outside of working hours. From what I see, though, outside of 9 to 5 is from my members, my customers. You're in sales, so when people want something, we're in a world that they want it right now, and if they have a question, they're going to want an answer. And so I do feel a little bit of pressure to respond to that right away, but I also think part of that is a trademark of mine, that I will respond to you unless I'm probably asleep or in the shower. You're going to get a response from me within several minutes. That's just how responsive I am, and I think this is where the world is going.
Okay, so wait a second. Are you on social networks all the time too?
Yes, except for Facebook.
Oh, that's right. We're going to do one on Facebook. TJ left Facebook in 2012 intentionally, and Joe Cardillo, who you all know, who's a colleague of ours at ARC, I kind of made him come back, and he hates it, and he wants to leave again. And so, but anyway, we'll do that. So, Kelsey, wait, did you want to answer that about do you? Yep, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I was just saying, like, as far as like being able to work remotely too. I mean, that's kind of what I had to do in order to get the job I was in now, because none of my coworkers now could meet on Friday to interview me. I literally took a work from remote day, with quotes, of course, to literally get on a flight, fly down here, interview the entire day, and still be on my laptop as much as I could during the entirety of the day, and be on meetings. I actually took a meeting from the airport on the Wi-Fi. God, I hope my coworkers never see this one from my last company. Yeah, that's essentially what I did to make it look like I was working remotely the entire time. So.
So Kelsey, do you have email etiquette? Is there times you won't send, or do you think that they understand, okay, Kelsey's working at home, she's working 8 o'clock at night, I don't care, I'll respond to her during the workday?
It depends on the situation. I kind of feel the same as everyone else that, it depends if it's like very, very urgent, but I work with a few people that they're not able to discriminate between what is urgent and what is important. So
Yeah.
screen them. And so my philosophy is that I have my cell phone and my email signature, and my office phone is forwarded to my mobile phone. So if they need to get a hold of me, they know how to get a hold of me. So like when I'm out on the weekends, I don't check email. I don't check text messages or anything like from my uh, no, I shouldn't say text messages, but like if someone would say, "Hey Kelsey, something's going on with the website. I need some help." I would look at it and I would decide, do I need to reply to this? Can this wait until Monday? But my philosophy is that email is not for when I'm with friends or relaxing or anything. Just because the nature of my work, it can wait until the next day. And I'm really available by phone, so if someone wants to call me anytime, I always pick up the phone. I'm like, hey, what's going on? Discuss it, and then I schedule a time to connect with, circle back with them at another time. But yeah, emails, I just don't.
I guess, really what you're saying is it's really about deciding how you're going to run your life if you work remotely like that, because it could become all-consuming if you never have boundaries that you set for yourself, right?
Right.
And Tiffany said in the chat, Tiffany said this, and gosh, I so get this, because usually when I'm at home working, no one else is there. And this week, there are so many children that come in and out of this house. It's I guess it depends. She said that she works, the person she lives with runs his own business out of the house, so it's harder for you to tell him, like, be quiet, I can't talk to you, whatever, right? When you're versus saying, what did you say? You said it's harder to tell a loved one no than to just look annoyed when an employee pokes their head around the corner. So I think that's a huge part of it. What is your home office like, and are there boundaries? Samantha, are you going to be the only one at home when you're doing this very exciting working from home?
My partner will be starting grad school too, so we'll have 2 grad students who will hopefully also be working on the side of whatever we're doing. So it's like, if there's a chance that they end up doing remote work too, I know that we operate very differently in our spaces. So it's a good thing we have so many new rooms in our new apartment, so that if someone needs to go to a different place, they can go to a different place. The best thing is, because I do work from, I do have 2 days off, so I currently do some work at home, or like my school work. When they are here, we've gotten very good at being like, I'm going to the bedroom to do work. Have fun watching Kitchen Nightmares.
Although you do know that they say the one place you should not have your home office is in your bedroom.
Yes.
Because it impacts your ability to relax and sleep and all of that.
Yes.
Okay, so TJ put this in the chat, and I like this question. Does telecommuting make us work harder? Does it make us better employees? So Albert, answer that, because I know you don't love. Do you think that you worked harder at all when you were telecommuting because you didn't have all these people to gossip with in the cubicles behind you?
I would say that, it is quieter. You can be a little bit more focused as far as that's concerned. Does it make better employees? I think you work longer hours because you don't have to think about commuting to work. I always hate it when I take a meeting from home from 7 in the morning until 8, and then now I have to think about going to work. If I can just stay there in my pajamas and work for another 8 hours, that makes it so much easier. I don't have to go somewhere to do it. But I think it's something you kind of have to do given the circumstances. Yeah.
Sure. Okay, TJ, you answer your own question. Do you think all this remote working makes you work harder?
When I said that, I don't know if that was my intention. I think it was more along the lines of that we're expected to be available more often. It's because we have the ability to work from home. Tiffany, you can log in. You said you do media relations. If there's a media emergency, you're now expected to probably jump right on that and get on your computer and get on your phone, whereas before you'd have to drive into the office, or you'd have to go take the kids, drop them off, and then go in the office or something like that. We're now expected to be on call most of the time outside of our scheduled working hours.
Yeah, and so where I am right now, which is Reading, PA, and there was a big, this is a big steel area, just like Allentown and Bethlehem, and we were driving by this old steel plant, and my boyfriend said to me, yeah, That was the job everybody wanted when I was a kid because those guys made $35 an hour. And think about it, you went to work, you came home, and that was it. And that's how life was for many, many people, professional people for forever. And now I think I don't know too many people who cannot be connected outside of that. I mean, teachers, that's it. And you're saying, TJ, you work in the banking industry, which one would think was more like that, and you're saying no, it isn't.
No, I mean, I was at dinner this evening, and I was getting told that focus on what's here. And we have, with all my friends, we have this funny rule: we all put our cell phones face down in the middle of the table, so that no one can look at them while we're all eating together and having a good time. So.
And how long do you last? And it work?
I mean, it works typically for the meal. I mean, most people, put that down, so it does work.
I don't know if I could do that. That's interesting. Okay. Does anybody else have anything they want to share? Oh, I know what it was. How do you feel? So say you're working 100% remotely. Albert, can you mute? Say you're working 100% remotely, which is what I have to do, and you have a very difficult conversation that has to be had, right? Do you guys have any reaction to that? I mean, Hessie, my partner, and I have had some really tough conversations over business planning. I mean, not arguments, but I mean difficult conversations about letting people go or things like that. And we have no choice. I'm not going to fly to Toronto to do it. And I guess I've become used to it. But I know when we did the communication hangout all that time ago, I was really surprised that almost everyone on the panel said they preferred important conversations be done either face-to-face or on the telephone, not in a text, not in an email. I mean, does anybody have a reaction to that? That, say you were being given a, what's the word I'm looking for, Tiffany? When every year you get a review, right? Does anybody have a strong reaction to having a review like this on video conference? Samantha is making a face.
I don't think there's a problem with it being worse, and you can't meet up with someone who would be like your HR manager, that as long as you have the understanding that the conversation is still confidential and secure, then it shouldn't be a problem. My thing would be that I would want to know explicitly that it was a confidential or secure conversation because the sensitivity of whatever's being discussed, and I would find that I would want it at the very least to be a video conference so that I can see the facial reactions of my HR manager as they're doing my review.
Okay. So, Kelsey, did you want to say something about that?
Yeah, I agree. We've had to have some frustrating conversations with one of our departments. One of the ones that can't decide or can't discriminate between urgent and important things.
Is this a woman that I might have heard about before?
Yes, and now now she has her protege trained so well, so now it's double trouble. And so her protege works in Sacramento, and she works remotely 3 days a week. And so we've had to have some really difficult Zoom video conferencing with them. And I think the biggest issue is internet connection, because her internet connection sometimes at home, you're having this really intense conversation and you're like, do you understand what I'm saying? Can I explain anything further? And then it cuts out, and it kind of just ruins that flow that you could have had if it was in person. But otherwise, I think it's still, at least doing a video conference is, I guess, what I prefer. And I think what they prefer as well. So I think that works out. People that I think are not confrontational probably that barrier of having a video conference or something. I would assume that would probably be part of what they might like.
So, okay, so Tiffany, you said in the chat, and I get this totally, that you don't have to be as calculated in your communication if it's in person, because you can talk it out, and you can. What do you think that video works almost as well, or is it you still feel like you'd have to be more calculated?
I don't know, because I was thinking about your first question as to, if I had a 100% telecommute job. I don't know, unless it was some amazing salary in my dream job, that I would look for a job with that. I enjoy working in an office in person with people, because I have been able to get more things done that way, or at least in negative cases, been able to express myself with no doubt, because you can read an email with a tone, and a video conference helps, but also you kind of know I've got this space and they can't see me wringing my hands or tapping my foot because I really cannot wait till this person stops talking. Like you don't get all of the physical
The
cues
body language. Yeah,
that you
yeah,
would get in
yeah.
person. And I feed off of those more so than the words people use. So I don't know that a 100% telecommute job is something that would attract me.
And it's really interesting because as we move, and I think TJ's right, like this is where we're headed. I'm not saying that we'll have workforces that are in their entirety telecommuting. I mean, even in that old sales job, we had big sales conferences that were really well planned because it was the only time of the year we could get everybody together, and we knew that that was important. And the management got together quite regularly. I mean, I had to go to California every 6 weeks for a week. Because it was important to be in the same place. But as we move towards a more remote workforce, I just keep thinking about the HR issues. I mean, Samantha, you said you want to make sure it's secure. Well, it's online. It's not. There's only so much security you can provide. And so I think that HR is the one area that this is going to be very tricky, right? Yeah. I mean, and I'm thinking of you, Kelsey, saying, you're trying to explain to somebody that their behavior might not be the right way to do something, and then they lose their internet connection. Jeez.
Right.
Okay. All right. I think I've covered. Did I miss anything that you guys think is important about working remotely or not working remotely? Because I think I've covered everything I had.
I think the thing about difficult conversations that you were talking about, Amy, was the fact that, I mean, yeah, I think working remotely kind of makes that difficult, because it's kind of like, would you break up with someone over, a phone call or text message or an email, right? You wouldn't really do that. And so I think, when I've ever been let go in my life, it's always been done in person. And so doing that over the phone or whichever always feels kind of weird. Just because, you kind of don't have the energy in a room or whichever going on. So
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Kelsey, were you going to say something?
As
Yeah.
PAU is deciding what they're going to do, because what's happening is they're combining buildings, and we basically have double the amount of staff than what we have available for office space, staff and faculty. And one of the recommendations that they had from the consultant they were working with is that they should have a space and planning director to facilitate, like you said, mentoring for people that are working from home and help them get set up and make sure that they have the right desk, and if they want a standing desk or if they need basically anything that's available in the office space will be available in their remote spaces. And so I think that that's so important, and I'm glad that PAU has recognized that. I don't know if they're going to do it, but I think companies that recognize that the remote people need as much support as people working in the office, I think that it can be successful working.
It's really interesting because really the blueprint is sales teams. I mean, when I was managing all these sales reps, I may have seen some of them only twice a year. It depends on who they were, what their territory was, what they needed me for. And I did a ton of mentoring. It's possible it's just a different mindset. And I just keep coming back to that sales forces have had to do it forever. And there's probably, I mean, I had to fire people in person. I never fired anybody remotely, and I wouldn't. Even if it meant flying somewhere to do it. But okay, all right. Does anybody else want to say anything else before we close? Because we're already at 9 o'clock. I can't believe it. All right, so we're coming. Go ahead. Did somebody have something to say? No. All right, so we're coming back in 2 weeks, and we're doing what is tech savvy. And just to clarify what that is millennials are constantly labeled as being tech savvy, and sometimes I wonder, is tech savvy being able to use a gadget? My 7-year-old is the one who taught me how to close the things in Facebook or on my iPhone because it was intuitive to her. But there's a different sort of tech savvy where it comes to, can you code and do you understand technology? And I want to explore that. And is this generation just gadget savvy, not necessarily tech savvy? So that's what we're doing in 2 weeks. And we're going to say goodbye now. Everybody can stay on the Hangout if you want to. And I'm going to stop the live broadcast. Bye.